Well, good morning, everybody. Glad to see everybody here. If you were like me, you stayed up pretty late last night. The outcome wasn't quite what we wanted. I also wore red, thinking that we would be celebrating, but it was a great game. And thank you, General Legere, and thank you, Tish, for that introduction. It's really great to be back. I had actually come to this conference in the past, but it's been quite a while. And the neat thing is that the folks here really get what we do. And I also want to thank the US GIF and the City of St. Louis for playing host this week. And today I'm going to make a couple of announcements this morning, so I'm looking forward to taking your questions in just a few minutes. But first, as it's been said, the NRO has been providing overhead imagery from space for 60 years. So we have a little bit of depth in this experience. In short, we build, acquire, launch, and operate the satellites that not only see what's going on, but hear what's going on. These days, we do it with even more precision and across a wider spectrum. And just a little video.
For 60 years, we have been making the intelligence that keeps America safe possible. We are the leader in developing, building, launching, and operating our country's space reconnaissance systems. Our adversaries are moving fast, so we are moving faster to stay above all threats. We are going beyond, building resilience in everything we do, innovating faster to create the technology of the future with a world-class workforce alongside our partners and allies. Our future is built on more than half of a century of unrivaled success in space operations. The National Reconnaissance Office, above and beyond.
I always like that video. You can't help but get excited about rockets and spacecraft. And space remains, an amazing domain with unlimited potential. It used to be an environment that was dominated by just a few governments. Today, it's a vibrant area with a combination of commercial and government organizations. This scenario has opened up new avenues of cooperation and allowed us to pursue new capabilities. It's also created congestion that we're going to have to address and navigate as we go forward. Most concerning, though, is the fact that space has become competitive. So competitive that we find ourselves having to protect our assets. Other nations are trying to deliver capabilities to deny our ability to operate in space. As a result, we no longer have the luxury of treating our advantage in space as a given. That's why the US and other nations have partnered to create space commands and alliances. Last week, just one day after the heads of the UK Space Directorate visited NRO headquarters, the UK Space Agency released its first ever space strategy in partnership with Spacecom. It's designed to protect and defend the UK's interests in space and help shape the space environment. Today, though, I want to focus on two areas that give us and our allies an advantage if we stay focused and aggressive. Those areas are innovation and commercial capabilities. As we said, over 6 decades, the NRO innovated by developing new technologies, utilizing new techniques, then combining those techniques and technologies to develop capabilities and acquisition strategies to solve the most difficult ISR problems from space. Consider imaging satellites. We went from small space-based film cameras that drop from the sky to be snagged midair to electro-optical systems that beam data directly to the ground in near real time. We continue that tradition by building upon past gains to provide the most amazing, credible, usable intelligence, reconnaissance, and surveillance information to anyone and everyone in government, from warfighters to firefighters, relief workers, and analysts, all the way up to the Oval Office. But the game has changed by leaps and bounds since we started in 1961. Today, data has to be delivered faster, just so we can keep pace with the rapid changes around the globe. we have to innovate faster so we can stay technologically ahead of our adversaries and deliver capability faster than our competitors. To do this, we need to develop systems and architectures that are resilient to interference or attack, and we need to be more nimble. We are already employing techniques to enable new ways of observing that defeat denial and deception techniques. Unfortunately, we can't talk about those in this setting, but they're amazing, trust me. We're employing onboard processing and artificial intelligence to deliver what's needed directly to the front and to free up analysts to focus on difficult inferential tasks. We are testing and deploying constellations of satellites of all sizes to provide capability, diversity of collection, and ultimately resiliency. We are integrating commercial tools, products, and data streams into our architecture to increase capabilities and coverage, reduce cost, and allow us to focus on critical next-generation technologies. This includes commercial launch services, commercial cloud data service, commercially produced spacecraft, and of course, commercial data streams and services. And all of this is happening today. What we need from you are developments and technologies that will enable us to bring more robust capability to our users faster at a lower cost. Specific areas where we need advances include improved algorithms for AI, ML, artificial intelligence, machine learning, reduced costs for processing on the ground and in space, improved low-power computer systems for spacecraft, quantum technologies that can enable new, harder-to-confuse observational techniques, more reliable communication systems that are immune to disruptions, and of course, many other technologies and capabilities. Finally, and we're all in the same boat here, we need a reliable and trusted supply chain. Recent news reports have highlighted the disruptions caused by the pandemic. We can't allow this to happen again because we can't do it without our parts. We can't do it without a supply chain. Partnerships also play a significant role. They're foundational to our success in space. We're only a few blocks from NGA's new West Campus, where much of the data NRO provides will be analyzed and turned into products decision makers, military personnel, and relief workers need to do their jobs. I want to congratulate Admiral Sharp on the new campus. I consider him a great friend and a really great partner. We work extremely well together. As a result, NGA and NRO are bringing new capabilities to the intelligence community that will revolutionize how we see the world and improve our ability to understand it. But it goes beyond that. We also have strong relationships with NSA for signals and for all the other intelligence and civil agencies that rely on our data. International relationships also continue to be critical as we go forward. New relationships with the U.S. Space Command and Space Force highlight both the importance of space and its status as a congested and contested domain. But what makes all this possible? It's our people. It's the dedication, intelligence, and creativity of the people of the NRO, you'd think I'd get that one right, and all our partners that enable the mission. We're committed to maintaining a workforce that's reflective of American society and brings different views, ideas, experiences, and capabilities to the forefront. As many of you know, the NRO was created 60 years ago as an organization that valued a broad spectrum of thought. 5 years ago, the NRO established its own cadre to add to the organizational breadth we enjoy. But we still need the next generation of the NRO workforce, and we need them from everywhere. The NRO is committed to creating a workforce of all races, religions, abilities, and perspectives. We're doing everything we can to pull the very best for every community and every neighborhood in every corner of this country, including a brand new NRO internship program to help achieve that. New voices lead to new insights and new ideas, and we're making a deliberate commitment to support that growth. Now I want to shift to give an example. 2 programs we have on orbit right now are the direct result of our people and partnerships. I can't give out their names, but I can tell you we launched both of them last year as demos. Both were developed using a combination of commercial components and processes and government-sponsored capabilities. Both went from concept to orbit in less than 3 years, and both were delivered on schedule and within budget. These two systems started contributing almost immediately. Both supported earthquake relief in Haiti, imaged areas over Afghanistan to support the evacuation, and provided insight into areas where we've struggled to collect in the past. For anyone who's been around the NRO long enough, the fact we're sharing this much information in public is probably a big surprise, but we're doing it for a reason. This is an unprecedented time for our agency and across the country. As a nation, we've never been as reliant on space as we are right now, and our role in that mechanism is being taken to new heights. As I mentioned earlier, the commercial sector presents incredible opportunities. For us, commercial isn't just a priority, it's a must. We don't just want it, we need it. It's part of our architecture. Commercial to the NRO is about capability, from launch to production systems, to processes and commercially provided data. We focus on the pixels and the data streams. Our partners focus on the analytics. We started our commercial office, CSPO, about 3 years ago. CSPO is responsible for working with the commercial imagery providers. I'm sure many of you know that already. We've already awarded multiple commercial contracts totaling hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Those contracts are providing about 100 million square kilometers of commercial imagery every single week. We're also working 2 contracts for commercial radar and RF sensing capabilities. All these things allow us to accelerate our technological process and focus on new phenomenologies. Back in June, we released a draft RFP for the next generation of EO contracts. We're so committed to creative thinking when it comes to our partners and our process that those contracts even include pricing incentives for innovation and rewards for the development of new capabilities. We expect those awards to start going out early next year. The next big step happens right now, and we're accelerating the process even faster. This morning, I'm proud to announce the NRO's new Broad Agency Announcement, or BAA. The BAA is a flexible approach to an acquisition process that will allow us to evaluate, leverage, and even integrate new and emerging technologies and phenomenologies like radar, hyperspectral, and RF sensing as they become available. We're working right now to release the framework for the first focus area of the BAA, which is commercial radar. These opportunities are open across industry, including foreign-owned US companies. So if you have technologies that fit the bill, come talk to us. In the coming months, we're opening it up to a whole host of other phenomenologies, like hyperspectral, RF sensing, and others. We're going to need all of those capabilities based on our plans for the future. In the end, we're all trying to innovate faster so we can provide what everyone needs, at the civilian level, the government level, and anywhere else our resources are required. We need your help to do it. As I mentioned earlier, the folks in this room get what we do. You know what we need to maintain our world-class capabilities, and for those who are already part of the mission, I want to thank you. I've already spoken way too much, and I've probably only covered 1/10 of what I would really like to be able to cover here today. But I want to emphasize again how much I like being back. It's great to be back here, and I want to thank you for your time. And to get the other 9/10, stop by our booth if you'd like more information. So now, I'm glad to take your questions. Over to you, Tish.
Awesome, Chris. That was really terrific. I got a ton of questions for you.
Uh-oh.
So, while the audience is sending them in, since I'm standing up here, I get to ask the questions I want to ask. While I get organized, let's start with that broad agency announcement. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Why are you doing it? What are you hoping to get from it? What's different about it? You talked about in your remarks about innovation, more partnerships. How do you see that? How do you see it working?
Well, how I see it working is, as we said, it's a broad area announcement. It allows us to do things faster because it allows us to engage directly with industry proposers as to what capabilities they have. And then if we find that together they look promising, we can immediately enter into agreements to go off and accomplish those. And why do we want to do that? The thing that I mentioned earlier is we have to innovate faster. We can't rely on the standard contracting approach, which, while it goes reasonably fast, it still takes time. And ideas come quickly, and new technologies are being developed every day. But more importantly, new ways to employ technology are happening even faster. And we want to be able to have the opportunity to be able to evaluate those with you. If they prove to be beneficial to what we need to do in ISR, we want to get them available to the community as fast as we can. And a BAA allows us to do that in the fastest way possible.
Okay, terrific. And I don't remember that you actually said kind of the when. When do you see maybe some of these things actually going on contracts being awarded? I had that question, and that's one of the ones that just came in.
Yeah, so on the BAA, as soon as we release it, we'll be able to start doing things. Hopefully we'll release it very soon. Like everything, unfortunately, we have rules to follow. So I'm hoping that that BAA will be released very shortly in the next month or so. But at this time, I don't have an answer for you as to exactly when it's going to be released. But it's going to be released soon, this year, and we'll be able to start moving immediately after it's out there, giving a modest amount of time for people to evaluate what's in there and bring ideas to us.
That's terrific. And you said you're going to start with SAR and move on to other phenomenologies. So, and there's a lot of questions associated with that. So as I sort through, you talked again about partnerships. Talk about the Space Force. How are things working between the NRO and Space Force, and kind of where does the NRO end and the Space Force start? What's that line of demarcation, if you will?
Great question. First, start off by saying that the Space Force and the NRO have a great relationship. We work very closely. About a little less than a third of our staff is military, and most of that now is Space Force. It used to be Air Force, it's Space Force. So Space Force is part of the NRO. It's a critical part of the NRO. A lot of our talent that's operating satellites, that is helping develop our concepts, is delivering product, comes from our really talented workforce, and a lot of that is our Space Force officers and enlisted. But beyond that, we work very closely together. The CSO, General Raymond, and I meet on a regular basis, and our staff, do the same. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we're coordinating what's going on, so that if there's areas where we see that we're doing similar things, we either partner to accomplish those together, and we have a couple of programs like that, or we decide that one organization will step back and the other will not. There's some clear areas. Clearly, we're doing overhead reconnaissance. Space Force is clearly focused on the protect and defend mission. I mentioned that we're in a congested and a contested environment up there, and our satellites are threatened. That are up there. So we rely on Space Force and Space Command in this case to identify the threat and coordinate our response to that threat, both if it happens while we're speaking in the today environment, but also what are we doing for the future. It's still an evolving, obviously, relationship. Space Force is relatively new. However, its heritage goes way back. They've made some changes. Many of you know the Space and Missile Center. It is now it's been expanded to the Space Systems Command. We have a very tight relationship there. In fact, my former deputy, General Gutlein, is now the head of that. So even there, we've brought a much tighter relationship to what we're doing. So I would say, in summary, with Space Force, we have an excellent relationship from the top down and across the breadth of what we're developing. It's still an evolving relationship, but it's all going in the right direction.
And that's fair. It's going to continue to evolve, obviously, as the department, the world, the threats evolve. You've now mentioned a couple times, Chris, the congestion in space. How do you think about all the debris? How do you deal with that? How are we working with our international partners on that? And how can this audience help you with that?
So congestion is different than the contested part.
Right.
There are a lot of satellites going up there. Communication systems are going up in low Earth orbit that are numbering in the thousands of satellites that are going to be up there, to the tens of thousands of satellites that are going to be up there. And then, of course, as you mentioned, there's debris. One of the things that has changed over the last 10 years is the management, space domain awareness, understanding what's up there. On a daily basis now, we review possible conjunctions of something, debris or other satellites, with our operational satellites. So that's one area that's changed over the last decade. And we're working to coordinate that. The U.S. government and the international community are still working to determine how do we manage the space domain so that we all understand what's going on. One aspect of that is the discussion of developing norms for operation in space. So not only do we have to be aware of what's up there, some of which we can't deal with. I mean, there's rocket bodies from 1961 that are still up in space that we have to avoid. They were never intended to come down back then. Remember, back then there were only two nations in space and probably 4 satellites, so it wasn't really much of a problem. But many of those are still up there that we have to deal with, as well as the new ones. And then as we talk about the new systems that are coming on board, that's where norms of operation become important. And we're working collectively with the international community to try and establish those norms so that we understand what's happening. Satellites do pass each other. We kind of know what to do in the geosynchronous belt, but when you're in other orbits, satellites will have conjunctions every once in a while as they go over the poles, for example. And we want to know whether or not they're operating in a responsible way, and what does responsible look like. Think of it sort of a way as like the law of the sea, what we do with sea control. It'll be different, of course, but that's what we need, and we're just in the infancy of doing that. All the way out to cislunar space, in fact. We've been talking about, what are the norms of operation in space, but that's very much in its infancy.
Need any help from the audience?
Yeah, we probably could use help. I mean, if you're putting satellites up there, we need to understand how you're doing it. And from space domain awareness, I know there's a number of, Tish is pushing me on here. There's a number of companies that are looking to do that. In fact, there's a couple that are already out there that have radar systems that are helping to catalog what's in space. So having that knowledge is really beneficial. So whatever you can do to help us understand what is in space, so that we can avoid it or at least manage it. And when we are putting up these constellations of satellites, that we operate them in responsible ways. As I said, that's more in its infancy, but there's some things that are clear, about notifying when you're going to launch, tell us what orbit you're going to be in, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the one area where we could really get a lot of help is space domain awareness.
Yeah, good. Chris, there's a lot of questions, not surprisingly, about technology. And you talked a bit about technology in your remarks. Of course, NRO has always been on the forefront of innovating. You also mentioned artificial intelligence and machine learning. And so can you expand on that a little bit more on, kind of where is the NRO with that? And again, a lot of industry folks, also a lot of government folks here in the audience. How should they be thinking about this and, enabling the NRO, helping you out?
Sure. Yeah. There's many areas that are there. Clearly, developing the algorithms and developing the machines that can implement those algorithms and ways to train, giving the information that are needed to train the algorithms is critical. But I'll just focus on two areas. We know that the user community, whether it's the frontline tactical edge, or it's the firefighter that's fighting a forest fire, they want information immediately. So the ability to deliver what they need, from space would be the fastest way to do it if we're collecting the right information and we can do it. So there's a couple of problems there. Is the satellite able to collect the information that's needed to make a decision to say, this is where the fire front is, or this is where the enemy is? And if it is, then we want to get it down as quickly as possible. We're already developing tools and techniques and demonstrating them on orbit, but they're just demonstrations at this standpoint. In the case of imagery, we're working with NGA very closely with Admiral Sharp and his team to make sure that what we're collecting on the satellite is good enough to provide the information that is going to be needed. It's an experiment at this stage of the game. We want to go beyond the experiment and be able to deliver that collectively. But we have to do it in partnership. It's not going to be something that the NRO is going to do on its own. It may implement the technology on the spacecraft, but the product is still a product that has to be something that people trust. And we only can do that if we have the right algorithms, the right information, and people have confidence in what's coming down. The other area, I would say, which also focuses on processing, but it's on the ground, is data fusion. We have a lot of data that come from our satellites. We traditionally deliver, imagery to imagery, radar to radar, signals to the signals folks. If we want to truly get to a multi-int opportunity and be able to tip and cue, we need to fuse those technologies again at the source. In this case, when it comes down to the ground. So we also need to be able to do that as well. In one sense, we have greater flexibility because we're on the ground and we're not limited to what we launch and what we can fit on a spacecraft. We can change it as time goes on. We can adjust it as time goes on. And obviously if we need to add more memory or more computing power, we can go off and do that. But we still need the algorithms. We still need to know that the data that we're bringing down and fusing is the right data. And we then still need to know that what we're putting together is something that can be trusted. So I would pick those two areas. There's many, many more. This is an area I loved when I was, a grad student. AI, ML was really kind of cool, and the information that goes with it. So we could probably go on for, a couple of days talking about all the things. But I'll leave you with those two because I think those are really the things that we really need to go off and work on.
And if you have the opportunity to walk the floor, you'll see a lot going on out there.
I did, in fact,
So,
yes.
Excellent. So sticking a little bit with that theme, and you talked in your remarks about just in general commercial capabilities. When you think about the acquisition process within the government, and you do have to live within rules and regulations, and then the innovation that's happening in the commercial sector, how do you marry those up? How do you really take advantage of the innovation that's happening, yet integrate that into the acquisition cycles that you have from truly what you are developing?
Well, I mean, that was one of the reasons we went with the BAA for that we talked about earlier, is that does allow us to evaluate faster and move faster and understand what's going on. The acquisition process, we're working with the acquisition community to look at how we can streamline that, and we're working with the requirements community because ultimately we aren't going to, as much as we'd like to, the NRO doesn't get to decide what it is that we're going to do. It has to meet a set of requirements that both the intelligence community wants and the defense community wants, and they coordinate that with other communities, the civil sector and others, for what we can do. So we have to manage the set of requirements. So and we want to be, once we understand those, we want to make it clear to the community what they are, and then engage you through things like BAAs, conferences like this, and others about what it is that we need to acquire coming forward. And then on the back end, if you will, we want to work to find ways to streamline the acquisition process. I gave an example where we were able to get 2 systems up there from concept to launch in less than 3 years. So we know we can go a lot faster than the traditional methods and still meet all of the requirements. Now we want to go faster still. And then I want to come to the back end where really it's all of us working together. We have to be able to deliver that capability once we put it on contract faster and at lower cost. So commercial plays an incredible role in that. When you have a capability that either augments or replaces what we have, you've already developed it. It exists. We can just go off and buy it. So that's great. But for those capabilities where we still have to develop it, we need to find ways where, as a community, we can understand what it is that we want to develop, which theoretically we did in the proposal phase. And then we have to go from that idea to launch to delivery of capability to the user community faster than we've done before. The traditional cycle is like 5 to 10 years from the concept before the award goes out till you deliver a product. We just can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We demonstrated we could do it in 3 years. We got to be able to do it faster than that, even still. So we need to use all of the capabilities, and even there, what are the things that we can do? We don't always have to build a new bus, new spacecraft for every system. If there's a production line spacecraft, and there's starting to be legitimate production line spacecraft, we have to evaluate it and see if we can use it. If we can't, we should. That'll save time. It'll also save cost. It'll also give us more reliable cost. We're working the same way on launch. That's not really NRO. We go to the Space Systems Command now, Space Force, for that. But they're looking, to take advantage of commercial processes so we can get launch vehicles faster and at lower cost. And then developing the sensors that collect the data. We also have to find ways of going faster there as well. So that's just some examples.
And I think there were some really good nuggets that are going to make this audience really happy with that response. I got to tell you, Chris, I wish we had 31 more minutes instead of 1 minute left. There are so many questions coming in. So we're just going to do a lightning round.
Okay,
I'm just going to throw them at you. How do new companies come to talk to you? I won't say what's on the rest of this, like lack of unreliable, unclassified? How do they get to you?
Okay, so
How do they get to you?
real easy. Go to our booth today if you're here. Go to our website. We've updated our website to make it easier to find out what's going on. And that goes everywhere from if you've got a really good idea, go to our website. That'll direct you to the Director's Innovation Initiative, where you can go off and work arrangements. Go to the procurement page there, and that has a lot of information. So we've updated the website on purpose because we heard you in previous years that it's kind of hard to figure it out. So that should be a lot more streamlined activity now.
Okay, good. Will there be any BAAs focused on LiDAR?
I sure hope so. LiDAR is a really neat technology, and we've got to take advantage of it. And I probably know who asked the question, and keep on working on what you're working on. It's great.
Okay. There's a lot of folks from St. Louis here. Are you thinking about having a presence here in St. Louis, or how do you think about working with the GEOINT community is really exploding here in St. Louis. How does the NRO think about working with folks here?
I'd say we work with folks in St. Louis all the time, from businesses that provide capability to individuals coming out of the universities here. A number of our workforce are from here, and of course we're tied in very closely with NGA. So it's not a direct influence, but it is certainly there. And Admiral Sharp tells me all the time how what we're doing here, and oftentimes when we talk in the mornings, he is sitting here in his office at NGA West, and so that's yet another place. It may be indirect, but it's a significant influence there.
Yeah. Excellent. And Chris, there really are so many questions. I wish we had gotten to questions about the workforce, which I know you're passionate about, questions about the budget, which you probably didn't want to answer. But
more of it is good.
Yeah, more is good. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Tish.
Happy 60th. In your closing comments, do you want to say anything about what the next 60 years may bring?
I think you're going to be amazed at the next 60 years as we, now encompass all the commercial capabilities, and we have a stronger relationship with our partners, not only domestically but internationally. I'm going to steal one of your quotes, Bob. One of the advantages we have is we not only have good friends, we have friends that are good. Bob taught me that. So, and it's really true. And I think that's what you're going to see over the next 60 years.
Excellent.
Great things.
Well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chris. Well done.